everybody. New York City, how you doing? It's me, Vinnie Langdon, and we have a fun, exciting episode of How About That? Tonight, I have a special guest coming to you, and she started acting, and then she got into podcasting, and she's got a radio show she'll be talking to you guys about here, and it's all coming up here on How About That? So, Morgan, what's going on? How are you?
How about that? I'm good. It's a Tuesday night.
I love that. There you go. Tuesday night here, recording this episode. And, I put out on Facebook, I said, you know what? I'm excited to start this new show up. I need some guests. And all of a sudden you said, pick me, pick me. And I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. Who is Morgan? Which Morgan is this? Because everybody knows a lot of Morgans, but this is a different Morgan.
I've only met a couple Morgans in my life, so the fact that you know more than me is pretty crazy.
There you go.
It used to be back in the day.
Nice, nice. So, for those who do not know, give us your background. You wanted to be an actress, you wanted to be a big movie star one day, you wanted to make a difference, and you decided you found podcasting not too long ago, almost 10 years ago now, and you started your own show. So, tell the viewers a little bit about that.
Yeah, so growing up, I always did acting, whether it be theater, and then progressed into when I was in high school, I did television, and then in college, I did the film aspect of it, and really wanted to do like that whole do the acting, producing, directing thing. And it just didn't work out. There's a lot of struggles that come with being in the acting industry, especially now, just because it's so saturated. You really have to be strongly motivated to do it, which at the beginning I totally was, and it just didn't work out. There was so many obstacles. Like when I was starting right after high school, being 18, I'd gone to a few calls of come out to Hollywood, try to get an agent type stuff. But for me, my roots of being in the Midwest, I didn't want to move to the West Coast. No offense to California, but it's just not my scene out there. And I didn't want to step out into the acting world without a college degree as some sort of backup. And so when I was trying to get an agent, it was playing around with the fact that maybe I would stay out there 6 months and come back to Chicago and start doing college and then doing the back and forth. But then it just never worked out with an agent. So I struggled for a while just trying to do the student projects, thinking that maybe because everybody had talked up Chicago to be the hub, to be the next acting location, because there was a few television shows popping up here, Transformers and Batman filmed out here, that I thought that maybe I could find an agent out here and get connected. So I was trying to build a reel. I was trying to get connected with student films out here, which were a lot of fun, except in the end, nobody wanted to edit 10, 12 hours worth of footage and make a short film out of. So I was struggling to get footage back from the college projects that I was working on. I saw a couple out of maybe like 10.
Wow.
I mean, I was working 2 jobs. I was taking both jobs off to be able to do the project. And then for not to get anything back to help build my career was very, very difficult. And I got very disheartened by that. So Craigslist was a big thing back in the day for starting up, student projects and trying to find gigs. And I just so happened one day to find a post on Craigslist for somebody looking to have a podcast for heavy metal and looking for another co-host. And I had always liked the thought of doing some sort of radio gig. The college that I went to only had like a jazz station, which nothing against jazz. I just don't know it well enough to talk about it for 4 hours. And I had just never applied for any internships out here to do a radio show. So I was like, why not? I've grown up listening to heavy metal now for over 15 years. I have a lot of experience with it. And at the time I was hanging out with a lot more local bands. I was just getting into the scene myself, as trying to front a couple bands myself. And I was just thinking that it would be a great opportunity to add my resume. And when I applied for it, they were like, well, we already filled the position. We have a co-host already. However, it would be nice to have a female perspective. And I was like, okay, fine. And I showed up and, the first couple of weeks were fine. And then as things go, people get busy, life takes over. And the 2 guys that kind of started it ended up disappearing. And this is like 2 months into the show. So we did maybe a handful of episodes, and then the main guy just ended up being like, I've got to take this job. I'm going to go do this. And I'm like, okay. So that left me and the other guy. And he only lasted like 2 more weeks after me. And at this point, there was a bunch of people kind of contacting us to come on, be guests, wanting to know where the show was going. And I kind of liked the excitement of it. It was different. And from there, I kind of just started going with the flow, and people were hitting me up. And since then, I've had consistent fans for 9 years. And it
Yeah.
just kind of became its own thing. It kind of fell into my hands. And at that point, I was not wanting to do the acting thing anymore because I needed to figure out what my degree was going to be, and realistically I needed to get a job that was going to pay more because I was 21. It wasn't going anywhere after 3 years of trying, and at that point I was like, well, I can do acting stuff on the side if it comes up, but I really wanted to be more of an adult. It just
Right.
lived its course. It was frustrating. I was like, I'm done. Not what I
Yeah.
thought it was going to be.
And I bet it was frustrating when you started the podcast because you just, you've been let down with some of those short film opportunities and you're going, okay, here we go again. This isn't going to work either. And then, like you said, the music industry, it's such a small and big world at the same time where, like when I was doing the Vinnie Langdon show, it was basically you would go to a show and back in the day, before the internet world, we would get handed flyers, and those flyers would have a list of 6 or 8 bands on them. And I would go, let me go interview the opening band for next week. Let me go to that show. Let me go to that show. And like you said, it pretty soon, almost 10 years goes by, and you're going, wow, what did I do with my life? And like you, I jumped into the whole acting world as well. And, it is a struggle. And you seem like the type of person where you do it because you love it. You're not trying to become, walking the red carpet every weekend going, hi, I'm Khloe Kardashian. No, you're doing it because you want to be Morgan and you love being on the set and the whole atmosphere. So, talk to us more about this podcast. You said it's primarily just metal bands. Are you interviewing the bands? Are you, playing their music? And tell us the format of your show.
So the format has always kind of been uh, based on playing unsigned local Chicago bands. So we have a guest on every week. We've always tried to make it somebody that could make it out to come to us physically. So for a while, we were based in the Chicago, like the city part. And then after doing the show there for 5 years, we ended up moving to the suburbs where we were, because that place ended up going under. It was like a computer repair shop that was trying to do like a TV, a radio station within that. So they were trying to do a bunch of podcast shows and use it kind of as an internet cafe slash podcast shows. And we were a part of that for a while until that whole business fell through. So now we're in the suburbs. We do our show out of a bar called Fitz's Spare Keys. And any band that, we're able to book that can physically come on our show, we interview them. Our format is about 2 hours long, but within that time, we usually open up the show with 1 or 2 songs of bands that have either previously been on our show or a band that we featured on our show that has released new music. So it's always kind of the most recent 2 tracks that we want to feature. And then throughout the show, we're always playing the band that's on for that day. So we're talking about the songs as we come in and out and debuting new music if they have it. And then we'll feature one unsigned band from out of the state or out of the country that we've never had the opportunity to have on our show because of distance. And then we'll end up closing the night with a couple more songs from the guests. So we really wanted to make the experience more about who's on our show in order for them to tell us all about themselves, to debut as much music as possible, to be able to sell themselves and
Right.
to get people's attention. So, and that's how it's been for the past like 9 years. And unfortunately, due to like COVID, because it was like how we edit, we have our microphones and our board and everything, and we are doing an in-person thing. So there's no like video like how you're doing. It was kind of difficult because when we do it in a public space, we're doing it for the opportunity for anybody who wants to come out to the public. They can come and be a part of that too. So I mean, we've had our moms and my dad out, and all these people come out to support the band and to meet new people every week. And also because like space, you need a lot of space if a band has members, 7, or maybe they're bringing their girlfriend around. So I mean, to have it in a house is a little bit tighter, and you need more people, so we never wanted to do it like in a close proximity in a house, or even on a video is a little bit harder for us, just because of the way that I edit the show as we go. So I will do the audio, then we'll pause real quick for me to put in the songs that we're listening to. We'll listen to them in our headphones, and then we'll just go from there. So when this all happened, I had to shut down everything that we had booked from March on. And that's what sucks, is like our show has gotten so popular, we're booking about a year and a half for people to come on our show. We do our show on Tuesday nights, usually from like 8 till 10 at the bar, but right now we can't go to the bar and record our shows.
Right, right. And it is frustrating where you're going, okay, what can I do to keep the show going and see it keep, that audience to follow you guys? Because I think, unfortunately, we live in this world where even whether you're trying to be a YouTuber or an Instagrammer or, some kind of blogger, you got to keep up with the consistency. And that is hard, where sometimes you wake up, you get out of bed, and we all have days like that where you're going, I don't want to be Morgan from the Metal Experience today. I just need a break. And then you go and you realize, wait, I lost all these followers because I haven't posted in a couple days. And that is frustrating as well. So I can imagine the coronavirus, hitting you guys strong as well.
It was more, I think, of people trying to follow us to watch updates for new interviews. That was the hard part. But the bands have been super understanding, which we are extremely grateful for, because a lot of the bands, they're not able to play shows. They kind of understand, because a lot of the people come back on our show or have listened to our show know how our format is. So we have pretty much said, whenever we're able to go back to our official quarters, we're obviously going to reschedule. I just don't know when that is. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that's like out of my hands. But for me to kind of like learn a new format, it's intimidating and it's frustrating. And I'm not in the mindset to play around with a new thing for just being able to use for a couple months, because we tried at the beginning, maybe in like April, after having a month off, I finally like looked at Luco, who's the other host, and I was just like, we should do an episode from home, just him and I, of just doing something of like, let's catch up, let's do it. I was calling it an origin series. We were going back for the past 9 years. We were featuring music of the band that had been on our show that year, doing a list, going through like memories and shows we had attended. And it was fun going through it, because we'd be live on Facebook and people would interact. However, it was even more time consuming and super frustrating to have to edit. And then I'd had the technical issues with having like the computer freezing or the video not working. And I was just, I had it. I was taking even longer to get things done, and we were going to bed around midnight, and I was like, I can't. I was even more aggravated and frustrated doing it at home, because it wasn't what I was used to. That I was just like, well, we'll finish the Origin series eventually, but I was like, having these breaks off is just like screwed with me. I'm not used to it.
Yeah, sure. Now, it is fun being able to host and talk to an array of different bands. You're specifically, locked down to metal, but, that doesn't mean that the next 4 or 5 bands you're going to interview have the same exact stories of how they started and what kind of music, and different bands influence different bands. And for you, what has been the best part about this whole experience for you?
For me, it's been awesome just to be able to meet and connect with so many different people, like of so many different cultures. We've had bands that have had members from Europe that have come over here that use those European influences. They come on with their strong accents, and they're talking about the days that they've been to like all these concerts back over there, where you're like, being in America, you've always longed for that opportunity to be like, I went to a Swedish metal festival. Like, I don't think ever going to get that opportunity. But to be able to hear everybody's different experiences has been awesome. The fact that people want to come back on our show multiple times, like I think the most we've ever had a guest on is maybe 7 times within the 9 years of wanting to just constantly come back and share and want to be a part of our show is just awesome.
Can I be on your show next week? Can I be on your show next week? And you're going, I need a break from you.
I mean, because of the booking has been so consistent, I'm able to schedule them pretty far out before they come back again. but the fact that we've made so many friends from doing it. I mean, we've even been within the past couple of years to 3 weddings from people that have been on our shows that have thought about us that in that way of hey, you're close enough of a friend, come see us get married. So it's been extremely rewarding to feel like you're still helping a community of people have their music be heard, which is what I've always wanted as a goal. And that was another thing about acting. It's like I wanted to feel like I was giving back in some way, whether it was going to be like if I was to become that big name, like how could I give back to a community? And this podcast has kind of given me that opportunity to help a bunch of different people, to get involved in sponsoring shows for benefits, to be able to meet other artists that are doing stuff for a good cause, for charity. You know, like I like giving back. I want to be able to help them be heard, but at the same time, how can I get involved to help them and other people too? So I want to be able to be that platform for people to be able to play their music, have an audience, which in this type, I mean, you've got Sirius XM with Octane and all their other shows, but those on-side metal bands that have pushed and put their heart and soul and money into their music, like they've got just as much production quality as a signed artist. Like, why wouldn't you give them more recognition? So there's got to be more shows like that. So we've met other radio hosts too that do the same thing, and it's just a tight-knit group. That's what I've always wanted, is to feel like I was a part of something bigger. So that helped with that.
Right, right. And, talking to us about, if people are more interested in learning about, they want to listen to past episodes, you have an archive on your website people can go check out, and tell us more about that.
Yeah, so we recently, within the past year, backlogged everything onto Podbean. So we have over 380 episodes. So it is under the metalexperience.com, which you can get everything that we've done on there. And all of our like past guest photos and everything on our Facebook page. We put our links up there for all of our past shows as well, which you can hear. But we're also found, because Podbean streams it to other sites, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google. Whatever Google's doing for music now, it puts it on there too. So we have all those channels that you can listen to our past episodes and check us out with multiple guests. I mean, there's something for everybody for sure.
There you go. Now you talked about, you wanted to become a musician and you wanted to be a front woman. And did you ever get that opportunity?
I fronted a couple bands, but they were short lived. Like it wasn't. It's a lot harder. There's a lot of clashing of egos. It's hard to find the right group of people where you can connect with and make music with, which I want to do, but it's hard. I was always joining a group that always had something already started, and when you're coming into it, you're trying to find your way in of where you belong, and I never found that fit. I wish I did. I didn't get to get out of that nervousness feeling of I can do this confidently, but it was a dream, short-lived. I
Right.
recorded one song ever, just like in a studio, something I wrote that I was proud of, but nothing really ever got done with that either, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Now, looking back at your experience when you first started with, acting in those student films, do you think that helped you get to the step where you are today? Did you learn to take that experience of, being on a set and being around different people and adapting that to a podcast?
I think it did for sure, because when I was doing acting and having to learn monologues and having to go to auditions and learn how to be confident, I was learning how to speak better, how to present myself, how to talk to people. So when I started the podcast and doing it more on my own, like, yeah, sometimes I struggle to hold a conversation for 2 hours, because if it's just me, I'm just like, how do I keep going? But everybody, I think, has that experience when you're talking to somebody, you're like, okay, you gotta keep going. But I've taken what I've learned from the acting just to kind of be able to have a conversation with somebody and be able to relate. And it's awesome being with musicians too, because you're also there for the love of music. So it's like you're able to relate more with them. Whereas like auditions, I was kind of walking in with strangers and you're kind of unsure of who they are as a person. You're feeling them out, where before the show, I have more time to talk and connect with them. And then we go and we talk. And as the interview unravels, you're becoming more like friends. So it's a casual conversation. We've always kept it more of that format of, I don't want to edit it. I want to make it as real as possible. Whereas with acting, obviously you're acting and I'm trying to be somebody else. So it's like, I'm more myself. I can joke around. I can be goofy. I can be serious. And in a way, you know, your radio show personality, because you're just hearing your voice, but I'm not having to, you know, show emotion on a video screen or anything like that. So I definitely feel like acting helped me become more confident in order to take over the radio personality, because I just felt more confident with how I was presenting myself and how I was talking to people.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, you were talking earlier in the beginning of the episode where, you know, being, a student, a child, and being from, somewhere like Chicago, and you kind of have two sides of it where you're going, well, Chicago acting, it could be competitive because the population of Chicago is huge. And then on the other hand, you're like, but I'm not in Hollywood, so I might have a shot at this. And, what do you have to say to those? I know you said earlier that, California relocating, was kind of scary and too big of a move for you, and you did try it. But, what do you have to say for those who, maybe they want to get into podcasting or they want to get into acting? What would your advice for them to be?
My advice is definitely, you need to go for your dreams, whatever that means. I mean, I knew people that went to California to try it out and they've succeeded. And that's just because they had to strive for it. They knew what they wanted, they knew where they had to be. And it's obviously not what I wanted to do, but if you really feel strongly enough where you think that this is something you really do, don't be afraid to try it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen is that you end up not liking it and you have to find something else. But unless you try, you're not going to know that. And in my situation, it was a little bit different just because I was afraid of being alone. And it sounds stupid, but you're like moving across the country and my parents couldn't come with me because of their work. And my brother was just not out of like high school yet. So I didn't want to be alone. And I didn't want to have that roommate that you don't get along with. And I didn't have a job to be able to support me living out there because it's more expensive than Chicago. So I was afraid and that held me back a lot. But if I had been older, I might have done it. Like if it had been after college, but I knew like in my heart, I didn't want to be one of those people that didn't have an education. And that's just because my mom is a teacher and I knew I had to try and get a degree in order to like have something to fall back on. Cause my fear was I'm going to be like moving back to my house when I'm like 26 and I'm not going to have done anything. So it kind of helped me in the long run to have found the metal experience because it keeps me having a hobby. It keeps me fresh and I have something that I can control and I can work and I can have a social life. So it's not like things haven't come from that, For trying podcasting, absolutely. I mean, there's so many topics that you can touch on. You can literally create a show about anything. You just have to find the way that you want to advertise it and promote it and how you want to present yourself. That's the most important key is who do you think is your general audience and what do you want to relate to in order to build your audience?
Right. That's very exciting. So what do you think has been, have you got an opportunity where, maybe a band came to you and said, hey, we want you in our music video because you like acting, or
That just happened. I'm not kidding. So that was so funny. We've been a guest on a show called Coffee Time. A guy, Michael Maskey of a band Vicious Attack started. He's also in a band called Central Disorder, but he started his own like talk show, like a video YouTube talk show where he has guests on. They drink coffee and they kind of like talk metal and because we were one of the people that had his band on before, he wanted us on and like, hey, tables have turned, come on our show and be a guest. So that was all fun and it was a blast. But he actually just hit me up and Luco a few days ago asking for us to be in the Vicious Attack video. And Luco was like, no, I don't do acting. I don't want to do that. Like he's super hesitant. And I totally understand. But I was like, hell yeah, count me in. I totally want to do it. Like I've missed it. I totally want to have fun and just be a part of it again. Any opportunity still that people are like, I need an actor or actress, I would jump for it just to be able to say I did it and to have a good time. But to make a career out of it is to me now like a joke because I have a job and I'm still like trying to work and stuff. But I'm always down to act and to say, hey, I did that.
That is awesome. Well, Morgan, it was great talking to you here on How About That. And it was nice learning more about you and your podcast. And if people want more information, where can they go to learn more about you?
Yeah, so the show is the Metal Experience, based out of the Chicago area. So we do have the metalexperience.com. That's our main website. That's through Podbean, and it'll direct you to our official blog website where we have all of our reviews and written interviews with bands. And then Facebook, we have Instagram, and you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, it was a fun episode of How About That. I'm Vinnie Langdon. This was Morgan, and we will see you guys on another episode. Or maybe you'll see her in music videos all of a sudden. Watch out.
You never know. Thanks so much, Vinny. This was fun.
All right. Well, we'll talk with you guys soon, and we'll see you later.
Good night.